An inclusive service promotes understanding and respect by welcoming children, families and staff from diverse backgrounds. This can include diverse cultures, family structures, abilities, playing and learning styles. An early childhood service that celebrates and honours the diversity of children, family and staff demonstrates an acceptance of diversity and the value of inclusion.
Inclusive practice is reflected in early childhood services throughout the whole program. When you see it in action, you see a range of different strategies which are implemented by a group of early childhood educators in collaboration with children and their families that get enacted to make sure that every person gets an opportunity to actively participate. I think inclusion at its heart is about an opportunity for everyone to participate, and we mean everyone. It doesn't have an asterisk attached to it that says everyone's included except for the following people. We know inclusion works when everybody gets an opportunity to more actively participate. We also know that the scope of inclusion is actually very broad. It goes all the way from families who are struggling through disadvantage and a range of complex needs around poverty to children with complex additional needs. So that whole scope of it is quite varied. And for early childhood educators, the beginning point around inclusion is to actually think about what diversity is present in the context of their service. And often educators will not necessarily see all the diversity that is present, and they'll need to actually do a bit of investigation in terms of the differences.
To me, inclusive practices is about knowing individual children and doing everything you can to ensure that the curriculum or the program, meaning the child's whole experience, takes into account that individual, that deep and broad knowledge of that individual child. It's about planning and thinking about each child's strengths, each child's needs, each child's interests, each child's family, cultural and community context, and planning learning opportunities around that. I think inclusion is also about children knowing their own strengths and talents, and this may sound funny if you're thinking of under school age children, but I think it's a wonderful thing if children at an early age learn to identify and respect and appreciate the strengths and talents of other children.
When an early childhood service claims to include all families, they need to think about how they can really include all families. And that's not an easy task, but what it does mean is that you plan to talk to people about how they want to be involved. Inclusivity is about bringing a whole lot of things together. So if we're thinking about the environment, it's what that environment looks like to all children and to all families and to all educators.
I think sometimes how you actually set up the physical space of your environment, a room or service or setting, wherever you are, can play a big part in how inclusive a setting is as well. So I guess it's thinking about the range of abilities and interests that are there amongst the children and families that you're working with, and setting up an environment that allows for different interests to be pursued.
Inclusive practices in early childhood settings support children's mental health and well-being. When uniqueness and diversity is respected, it reinforces a child's sense of belonging, supports the development of their identity and boosts their self-esteem.
An inclusive environment or an inclusive program or experience helps a child, is what allows a child to meet challenges, to pursue interests, to be successful, to make friends, to do all those things that we want children to do in a care and education service. If there's that feeling of there's something here for me and there's something that caters for who I am as a unique individual, I think that that's a major contributor to that sense of belonging.
So I think inclusive environments for children promote a really positive sense of self and self-esteem in children. They will extend themselves rather than just manage.
Early childhood services benefit from being open to learning about the diversity within their community and providing opportunities for all children and families to be included at the service. An inclusive service also involves stepping back and reflecting on the practices and policies and whether they provide opportunity to acknowledge and celebrate diversity.
So educators in the first instance really thinking about what that term means to them. I think we sometimes say it, but we don't actually pause to think about what it means. And an important thing in there too is a very philosophical idea about welcoming everybody, about including others who are different from you. So in making sure that that conversation is had, and it might end up in a philosophical statement as well, that you make sure is clear about what you believe about inclusion. It also might end up in policy and procedure documents, things that actually inform the way you will do things. When those sorts of things are underway, then educators need to turn to the practicalities of inclusion, because it is in what you do every day that the commitment to inclusion is manifest, is enacted.